So tonight I'm going to talk about using textures to enhance your photos. I like, I started getting more into photography because of Instagram, which doesn't make any sense, but remember back at the beginning of Instagram, you could add textures. Do you remember that? And I was like, this is so much fun. I want to add textures to my other pictures. Where do I do that? Um, And so that's how I ended up getting into, I wanted to make my photos more artsy. And then it was a one big long slide down into where I am now. Um, I do a mixture. I have a lot of my own textures that I've taken various places, and I'll talk about that. Um, but I also have ones that I've gotten from free websites, ones that I've purchased. Um, but again, you don't want to enter competitions if those textures are a part of your photo that you can see. Like if everything's hidden in the background by a texture except for the subject, uh, and the texture is very obvious, that can't be entered in a competition. If it's just vaguely adding a little texture in there, they don't care so much. Um, but for the majority, if I'm going to enter something in a competition, I use my own textures. Um, okay, let's move along. It doesn't have to be a great photo to use to put a texture on. If it's has an interesting composition, or it's in focus but it may be not the best picture, you can enhance those pictures with Photoshop. This picture was very kind of misty and didn't have a lot of contrast. It was foggy that day at Morro Bay, but I turned it into that by adding textures, and there's probably like 3 or 4 textures on here. And all of a sudden it turned really cool and moody and interesting, which I like. So, um, it from that to that. Um, so you can use textures in your photos to add interest to maybe a kind of dull photo. You can change the colors by using different colors of textures. You can accentuate your subject by adding textures around that bring the eye to the subject, or just to create art. It's a lot of fun to just play around and see what happens. And some days I have more time to do that than others, but it is something I enjoy doing. Where to find textures? This one here, crumpled piece of paper, but you put it on a photo and it looks interesting. Um, Textures are everywhere. They're concrete, peeling paint, marble in a bathroom, or if you're wandering around downtown LA, there's all kinds of different things made of marble. Fabrics, craft paper, like if you go to, not Joann's, but say Hobby Lobby or Michael's, in the craft paper section, sometimes there's some interesting uh, textures in those. Stucco, anything that's rusty or has a patina, metal, just, other maybe shiny metal or whatever, wallpapers. Um, when you go somewhere, oh, and I didn't add to this, but out of focus shots. Like if you're taking flower pictures, uh, go to manual and just take a couple of out of focus shots of the flowers, the greenery, and you can use those as textures to add color to the background, or even just to be behind the flower if you want to isolate that flower from everything else. And so it's just a good habit to get into when you go somewhere. Just grab a few textures. And It's super easy and very useful when you want to go into using them. You can modify your pictures that you're going to use as textures by changing the color, either with the temperatures and the uh, temperature and tint sliders. Or in Lightroom, there's the slider or whatever it is in Photoshop.
You, you,
Camera raw.
you take,
You can change the colors, huh?
you store all your textures in the same folder?
Yes. Yeah. They're all in a folder. A very, very big folder at this point, but yes, they're all in one folder. And some of them are in smaller folders, like Textures Apollo Park, Textures Los Angeles, things like that. Um, you can use art apps like Topaz Studio 2 isn't available anymore, but I really like doing stuff in that. You can use Corel Paint or the Paint app in Windows. Uh, there's or whatever other Paint apps that you can find online that can modify your photos into more blurry, textury, painty kind of things. Um, you can do focus blur, like I was saying with the flowers, a motion blur. Sometimes it's fun to just take a tree and go like this, on like maybe a second shutter speed. And then you have this uh, cool motiony blur sweeping kind of effect across the page. And it makes an interesting texture. Or you could actually just create them in Photoshop with brushes. You can start from scratch with a like 15-inch square blank palette and just use their grunge textures or there's also Photoshop has a lot of textures in there that you can play around with and just use various colors and make your own textures. So anyways, there's a variety of ways that you can get textures using your textures in competitions. Use your own textures for competitions. If you're only adding a tiny hint of something, it's not, they don't really care as much. But if it is like visible uh, as or a significant part of the background, it needs to be your own picture. Uh, and free textures. I put in here some coffee shop blog. That was when I found early on. And the same with Jerry Jones. It used to be under Shadow House Creations, and he had so many great textures. And he got rid of his blog that he was putting them all on, and now a lot of them are on his Flickr page. Like page 9 and beyond. But anyways, there's a lot of really cool ones there. Texture Labs, it has a huge amount of free textures that you can get. And they're pretty high resolution. So it's helpful and you can pick grunge or metals or paint or uh,
You're frozen, Kathy.
Are you guys still there? Sorry about that. Our internet went down for a second. Can you hear me? Okay, so let's start this again here. Close that. Okay, do I need to share my screen again? Screen. Okay, are we back to where we were? Are you guys okay over there in Zoom land?
Thank
Yeah,
you. You're back.
yeah, that's the
Yes,
last
we are
thing I
back.
saw.
This is the last thing you saw? Okay, then we're on top of things. Okay, next. Blend modes. This is the part of using textures that's most important, is that picking your blend mode for the texture. And because every blend mode will interact with every photo differently. And you can kind of think, well, okay, this light texture might do this, but you never know until you actually stick it on the image and go through the blend modes to see. The most used blend modes are multiply, darken, lighten, overlay, soft light, and hard light. And you're like, I don't know what that means. If you're new to Photoshop, that's okay. I will explain it. It changes how the layer above the photo layer, how the light and dark areas interact with each other. And these are the most common ones that you will end up using for textures. Most commonly multiply, overlay, and soft light, I'm going to say. Um, but occasionally some of these others are helpful, so I included them. Examples, I'm just going to run through these kind of quickly. These are all textured pictures that I've done. Some are more textury than others. Others, it's very subtle, but it does add to either the background of a portrait image or just adds a little to the interest of the image. So some of them are really obvious, like this one, where I used a rusty pan background. But some of them are just adding a paint canvas. This one I added a green vignette sort of one as well, along with the paint canvas. I got into food scales because of Joel Grimes. Sorry about that. Like here, this texture is really prominent. I wouldn't enter this in a competition because this is not my texture. It would need to be my own texture in order to do that. This was just done with a gray background.
Do you apply the textures over the whole image, or do you separate the the prime, subject matter and not overlay it.
Depends. On a lot of them, I
Oh,
separate the subject out.
What
And
does the
apply.
texture,
What?
what does the texture look like before you apply it?
I'll show you when we go through some, you'll see the textures beforehand. This was a cloud texture. And this was broken glass in a window that I took pictures of. Okay, so I have 5 different images and we'll just do as many as we get through. A flower, a portrait, a landscape, a still life, and an animal or bird, but I put animal. So I'm gonna go out of this. And I am going to open Photoshop. I haven't opened Photoshop in this is the LPA computer in a little while, so which means like less than a month. No, it won't update, but I'm like just need to. Okay, desktop. Okay, so I'm going to open this picture. Oh, I have to reshare my screen. Sharing screen. Okay, you guys can see Photoshop, right? No, I'm talking about the Zoom people. Okay,
And we can hear you too.
what?
And we can hear you too.
Yes, good. Okay, so this is the original picture. It is in its own background layer over here. And each layer will show up on top of this background layer. So I'm going to open the first texture. I'm going to use 2 textures on this one that I actually made. So the first one, I'm going to do this one. And it is the wrong configuration. It's going horizontal instead of vertical. So I can go up here to image, up here at the top. And if I go to image rotation, Okay, we're back, hopefully for a little while. Okay, this is being recorded, so just so you know, guys, I apologize. It's having issues, and it's not my fault. Okay, I'm sharing the screen again, and here we are. Meeting panels.
Sandy wants to know what goes into choosing a texture.
Well, if you want to add more color, look for textures that have that color. Or if you want to make it more painterly feel, look for textures that have paint strokes. You can always remove color from a texture if you like the texture of it, but not the color. You can turn it black and white. So, and one of these, I will show you that. Uh, if you want to add lots of texture in the background, like say the sky is just really plain, and you want a really strong grungy kind of texture for the sky, you look for a grungy texture or one with lots of scratches and dirt and whatever. And it just depends on what your goal is with the picture. A lot of times I tend towards more artistic, painterly kind of brushes. This one was a picture of a bunch of flowers and of little like gold fields, and it ended up like this. But now I'm going to hit enter to get rid of this blue. Come on, enter. Okay, so I'm going to go to normal. Here's darken. Here's multiply. Here's lighten. Here's overlay, soft light, and hard light. Now, for this one, I chose soft light at 70%. So let's see, soft light. And over here, when this when this layer is highlighted, I can change the opacity up here by clicking on opacity and moving my slider back and forth. So can you see with nothing? And then as I go up, it goes all the way. Yeah, it's just changing what it's interacting with.
Yeah.
Huh?
How it's
Right, how it's adding together. So I had this at 70%. So let me go down.
that's normal?
Huh?
Is that normal?
What? How it's interacting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what the background colors have in it and what what the lights and darks in the background with the lights and darks in the foreground.
Those hard lights.
Right. Well, here's overlay, soft light, and hard light. If I really wanted hard light is always gonna be a stronger effect. Soft light is the lightest effect, and overlay is kind of in between the two. So are we back? Can you hear me?
You're back.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I added this new layer texture but it's the wrong orientation. So I'm gonna change the clockwise it to clockwise 190 degrees. Make sure it's on, click on the,
You're not sharing your screen.
oh crap, you're right. Thank you. Sorry if that's a bad word to somebody. At least I didn't say something worse, because that could happen. Okay, now should be sharing.
Looks great.
Okay, so I have this one that I have now turned horizontal or vertical. So I'm going to click on it, drag it up to the flower layer and come back down, let go, and see now it's over in this layer over here. I can click on that and drag it down. And sometimes they don't fit, and so you have to adjust the size, but these are working well. This one, okay, this one I chose color burn at 44%. Oh, let's see what happens at 44. So it really, I liked how it brought out, like, gave it a lot more contrast and depth with the color burn layer. Before it was this added some vignette around the edges and just really makes the lupin, the tiny, tiny lupin pop. You can add more contrast by duplicating the layer if you want. It doesn't look like it needs it, but we're going to see what happens. If I click on the background layer and do Control, no, yeah, Control J, it'll make a copy of whichever layer I
And
have
sure enough,
had.
like a week later, the ball came out. In parts.
Suzanne,
No,
we
it's
can
like a
hear
full.
you.
Oh, sorry. Not a big.
That's okay.
I know,
But welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Oh, they're sleeping.
so I'm going to put this, I click on this background copy, move it up to the top. And if you do it in soft light, I learned this early on. If you duplicate, if it's something's really non-contrasty, if you duplicate the layer and put it in soft light, it adds a nice amount of contrast. And because you have control of your opacity, you can start here and just bring it up a little till you're happy with what the amount of contrast that's going on. Yeah, so I said about 40%, but I actually like this at about 25%. Uh, and um, right now we have two layers. I want to add a texture to the entire layer to just add a little bit of oomph to it. So I'm going to go over to File, Open, and I'm going to use this painterly texture that's just kind of light and has a nice paint uh, feel to it. Again, I'm rotating it 90 degrees clockwise, image rotation 90 degrees, clicking on it, dragging it up, dragging it back down. And this one is the wrong size, so I'm going to hold down. You don't have to hold down your shift key, but because it's the wrong shape, if you hold down shift, then you can make it whatever shape you want. So now it fits on top of the other one. And again, I'm going to hit enter and then I can go through and here's normal, here's darken, multiply, lighten, overlay, soft light, hard light. So I am going to do soft light. I'm going to zoom in. You can hear now, so you see without it and with it, you can see kind of it just adds a painterly texture back there. And I can lower the opacity just a little so that you can, I'm going to hold down the space bar, then I can move the picture around so that you can see in the background here the texture that appears. Can you see that? Control 0 gets you back to full screen. And then we have our finished picture. Uh, any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was, if I hold down my Alt key, it's so hard to see. Do I have lighted background keys in this one? Yes? No. You can uh add in lighter areas and stuff using your linear gradients and things like that, but you can't add textures. No, it's only one layer. Okay, so if I do Alt, I think that's Alt. Right. Okay, background.
Texture has me.
So this is what we started with, and this is what we ended with. And just a little more artsy. You could take it back into Lightroom and maybe lower the highlights a little, make a little more vignette if you want or whatever. But for our purposes, we are done with that one. So I am going to go out of it. And next, okay, next I'm going to open the portrait. And in this one, I'll show you a different way of dealing with textures on people. Oh, that's not the right one. That's the, oh, I'm keep doing this. There. This is why I don't do this for a living. Webinars. Zoom or webinars, yes. Because this is probably like how everyone would go. Okay, so we have her on a gray background. I did some cleanup because it was a white fabric backdrop. So I did some cleanup of wrinkles and stuff. And just so you know, it didn't start out quite this perfect. But this is where we're at. I'm going to add here. We have our background layer. So I am going to add. I'm open, and we're going to add our gray texture first. And again, it is not the right. I just don't like to resave stuff all the time, so I don't mind going in and changing stuff when I'm going to do this. So I'm going to click on this, move it up there. When I see the picture, I can drag it back down. And I'm going to hold Shift and I'm going to drag it out over the entire image. Hit Enter and make sure I'm on layer 1. And we are going to go through some of the textures and see which one looks better. Here's darken. Nope. Overlay, soft light, hard light. So which one do we like for the background? I feel like that one will work nicely as a background if I lower the opacities. So that's multiply. So I'm going to lower the opacity a little. Here's it without. Here's it. This adds a little more painterly look to it. But now she has it all over her, right? If we zoom in, I'm going to hold down my space bar. And if I turn off the texture, this little eye here, if you click on it, it turns off the texture. And it just darkens her down too. And we don't necessarily want that. So what I can do is click on this background layer of her and I can select subject. Select subject, yes. And I don't know what it's doing. I don't want generative fill. I don't need generative fill. Okay, so she's reasonably selected. We're not going to worry about details for the purpose of this. Um, I don't know what. I'm trying to get it back to full screen. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, so it's just acting crazy. Hide bar. I don't even know why this is hot hairstyle. Super annoying. Okay. So anyways, she is selected. I'm going to hit Control J to duplicate the background layer. And now there's a layer that just has her. If I hit Alt and hit the I, it's just her there. So now I can drag her on top of that gray layer. And that's what it was before. She was all gray from the texture, but now she's back to normal. And again, I feel like it adds too much brightness, I can lower the opacity as much as I want, but we'll just leave her at 100% for now. So that's a way that you can get the texture off of your subject, is just by selecting your subject, putting it on its own layer, and then moving that layer to the top. And selection is super easy nowadays with the select tool. It is very advanced. Um, yes, yes, it was a big pain in the neck. And you can still go back in and select and mask for hair if there's a lot of little detail that it misses. But for our purposes, we're not going to worry about that because this is just a demonstration. Now I want to add sort of a painterly over texture over like a canvasy look. So I'm going to do File, Open, and there's this canvas. It has a really nice canvas feel to it. Again, image rotation, 90 degrees, click and drag, bring it back on. And then we're back. I wonder if it stays on the same recording or if that's just, I'm gonna have 10 recordings. Yes, I will share my screen. And there we go. Okay, so now we have this gold texture on top. But I'm not really gonna want gold in the image because I like the gray tones. So first, let's put this into a blend mode of probably, oh, I did the whole thing. We don't want that. Hang on. Control Z, Control Z. Okay. Okay. Let me do it over. I'm gonna get rid of this layer. If you hold on a layer and you drag it down to this little trash can, then it disappears. So I'm just gonna go here and I'm gonna flip it here. Then when I drag it in, it will be in the right configuration. Hold down my shift key and I can click and drag on the little handles to where it's the right thing. Enter. And we're going to do soft light at about 50%. Somewhere in here. And I'll zoom in so you can see that texture. Can you see the canvas texture there? It looks lovely on her face, right? And her arm and her chest. It looks beautiful. No. So we want to get rid of that, but I don't want to necessarily get rid of it from everywhere else. So what I'm going to do is this little box with a circle in the middle is called a layer mask. If I click on it, it applies a layer mask to the layer that was selected. In this case, it's the gold layer. And everything is showing because it's white. Anything that I want to hide on that layer, if I paint with black, it will cover it up. So I'm in these are the colors of the brush, and would be the layer of the brush, the color of the brush, the foreground color, but I want it to be black. So if I click these little arrows, then the black one will show up. You can also do X, and it also toggles them. But I want black. Excuse me?
We're not seeing.
You can't see that?
It's not very.
Here, okay, over here, here's the black and the white, the black and white. That's weird. Why can't you see it?
Screen.
I hate when Zoom does that. Okay, let me see. How far can it go? This far? And you can still see it? No? How about
I
now?
can see it okay.
Now?
No, a little bit more.
A little more?
Let's push it.
I think it might be our projector because they can see it on Zoom. Okay, so we'll do it this way. There. Okay. So we have our layer mask. I'm going to select a brush. I'm going to make sure it's a soft, round brush, which zero hardness. Now I'm going to increase the size. It's very tiny right now. And you can do that either here in the size panel, or I can close that down. And I can use my bracket keys. So here's my brush. Can make it a little, we'll make it about this big. And up here at the top, you have your opacity and flow. I'm going to lower my opacity down to about 40% or so. And I'm sure like you're a Photoshop expert and I'm not as much. So just bear with me. But so now I'm going to be painting with black on this white layer mask. And see here, if the white is here, then that's what I'm painting on. I have to make sure that I have the layer mask selected. Okay. And I am just going to paint on her face and get rid of that texture. Anywhere where there's skin, we just want to get rid of the texture. So it is not pretty. Can come down her arm. And you can adjust your size with the bracket key. Okay. That looks pretty good. And I want to take it off of some of her hair as well. Okay, so that's the before, that's the after. Now, I'm still not fond of the gold. So what I can do, I can turn this black and white, this layer, by adding an adjustment layer above it. And this little icon down here are all your adjustment layers. And that just does different things to the layers. I'm going to pick a black and white adjustment layer. Now, it turned everything black and white, but I only wanted to turn the gold part black and white. So there's a thing called a clipping mask. If you hold Alt down and you put your cursor between the two layers, you can hook the black and white layer only to that gold layer. And now see, it only is turning the background gold. See? And I heard all. Well, except for, yeah, it turns the whole gold layer black and white. So now we can have that texture, but without the gold color. And right, I don't really like how much room there is at the top of this. So the last thing I would do is come over here to the crop tool, and I'm just going to pick an 8:10 ratio, because that's a very common ratio. And then we can do enter, and then you have your finished black and white or portrait with a nice texture. This is what we started with. And this is what we ended with. She stands out a little more. It's a little more painterly. There'll be more texture in everything when it gets printed. So it just makes for a really nice portrait. Okay, next. Wait, wait. We're gonna skip over to we'll skip over to the still life. So close this file. Oh. Okay, this will probably be the last one we do because I don't uh, know how much time we have. Okay, so this is a still life of hair in a book and books. I took care of some of the scratches that were and weird things that were in the background, but some of it is kind of cool and I wanted to leave. So I did. Um, open. Um, so for this one, uh, yeah. Okay. I'm getting faster at all this. Okay, can you guys see? Okay. Um, let's see where we're at here. Okay, I'm going to first, I want to make this more golden and vintage kind of looking. So I'm going to use some more textury kind of textures with this. And so first I'm going to open this one. And it has a nice gold color and some cracks and paint kind of stuff going on. And so I can make sure I could just click on this, drag it up there, bring it back down, let go. Now it's much bigger. So if I do Control T, that's for transform, and then Control 0, then it'll show the whole, everything that's in the frame of the photo of Photoshop. So I can bring this down. I'm going to hold Shift so that I can change the shape of this some. And bring it in. And then hit Enter. And I did this in soft light at 100%. So let's see. On some of them I put. So here is before. And here's after. That adds a nice brownish tone to the back that I like, with some interesting other colors that kind of go with the books. So a little bit of green, a little bit of gold, and browns. So it goes together really well. I'm going to do Control 0, and that brings it back to full screen. Next, I'm going to add the brown texture with a lot of interesting stuff going on. Again, click on it, drag it up, bring it back down, and let go. And adjust the size of it. And I'll just leave it like that. And hit enter. And I'm gonna do multiply at 50% to add some more extra contrast in. Now you see what each texture looks like before and then after. If this is we're back. Okay. Share. Okay. So this is what it's selected. It looks fine to me. For some reason, it's wanting to have the blue handles around it, which is a setting that I'm not sure where to turn off right now. So I'm just ignoring that part. But here is our selection. If I do Control J, it will make a new layer with just what is selected. Control J. And you can see down here, it is, if I hit Alt and the I, that is what is selected. So now I can drag this up to the top to have a little more clarity on it. And then I can lower the opacity of that. Here's with no opacity, like it's disappeared. And then if I raise it up, I can adjust the amount of extra pop that I want it to have just by using the opacity slider over here. Next, I want to add a unifying texture over the whole thing. Again, sort of a canvasy feel. And we're going to use this dark one for that. It has just a nice overall sort of painterly look to it. So make sure that is selected. And come back down. Bring this in. Okay. Enter. And let's see, overlay. Oh, I really like what that does to the background. That actually looks nice. Okay, so we're doing soft light at 80% about. And if we zoom in, which I do Control and then the plus key, you can see what it does. It just adds some depth to the color and to the background. Control 0 gets us back to full screen. And if I want to reduce the saturation, I could use, because an old style photograph will not have as much saturation. I can do an adjustment layer and do hue saturation. And here we go. We can lower the saturation just to give it a little bit more vintage feel. And we can also lower the lightness just to give a little more depth to that. Now it really needs a vignette. And so I'm going to show you how to do one way to do a vignette. I don't know, there's probably like 25 ways to do them in Photoshop. But I'm just going to do an easy way. I'm just going to, this little square with a plus sign in it, it says create a new layer. So I'm going to make a new layer on top of everything. And if I do control backspace, can't see anything. I'm sure one of these is to give me light on my keyboard, but it's hard to see. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna make a new layer and then I'm gonna do, nope, new layer. There. Okay, so I made a layer and then I hit Control Backspace and it turns it black or whatever your top color is over here. So now I can come up here to the marquee tool and I'm going to right click, come on. Why are you being so recalcitrant? Where's the other marquee tools? I feel like they moved them somewhere. Oh, here we go. Nope. Where is the elliptical marquee tool on the newest Photoshop? It's right with the square one on mine. It's located nested beneath it. No, it's not. Click and hold. It's not nested beneath it. Nothing is coming up.
What's below the T?
Huh?
What's below the T?
That's an ellipse tool. I suppose I could use that. Okay, so I started in this top corner, went over here. I'm going to go down feather, the ellipse tool. Oh well. I'm going to where's the inversion? All right. Okay. Not working for me. Well, never mind. We won't do it. It's making no sense to me. It's like it went crazy or something. Uh-oh, now I did it. Now I messed it up really bad. Oh well. So here's our finished herrings. Doesn't it look lovely?
Burn the corn.
I can go to filter what?
Burn,
I'll do a
dodge the corners.
yeah, well here, we'll do this. I'll fill this with 50% gray. And then I'm going to turn it, go to soft light now. And you don't have to do it 50% gray, but now if I paint with black, I'm going to make a really big brush and bring my opacity down to like 25%. I can start to draw in a vignette wherever I want it. Huh? Yes, the old school vignette. Make it darker down here. So this is just, if you see this, what did I just do? Anyways, er, um, you can see that I made kind of a vignette with the painting of the black on the soft light gray layer. And you can use that with white as well. Like if I wanted to switch it, I could paint in extra highlight on the hair or on a book, edge of the book if I wanted to add any more in. Anyways, you can do lots of artsy kind of things with that layer. What?
You can play a long time.
Yes. Anyways, so that's a more finished pear version, but we need to stop. So, because it is late. Any questions before we stop? Oh, there we go. Woohoo! Stop sharing. What was it? What shortcut was it?
When you were capturing and dragging it onto the.
Oh,
To the canvas.
and then drawing and then bringing it back instead of doing
moving
copy,
the job
paste.
and-
Right. Yeah, no, it's that's actually a really helpful tool. Okay, I did something and I have no idea what I did to make it big, and I can't get rid of Photoshop.
Helps when I do this, so I can't back out of it, but pick up the laptop,
What?
throw it.
Right? I'm gonna have to take this home and get it set up better.
Oof.
Any questions from the people on Zoom online? Okay,
No, but
you-
thank you very much, Kathy. It was informative. I appreciate you.
good. Hopefully. I'm sure that it was very annoying being online and getting cut off every 5 minutes, but such is life sometimes.